Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are on episode 40. We just did 46, so today... 47. We're doing back-to-back today, but it's worth it. It's worth it because honestly, like I've actually been trying to get in, this podcast going for a while, but like logistically, I'm just a terrible scheduler. So I have Bert helping me out now, but luckily today we have Jordan here from Bad Lives. How's it going, Jordan?
Hello.
I'm glad we could finally like get you to get this together.
It's been crazy.
Yeah, and like it's always like one or the other. Like someone's busy. I mean, you guys have been keeping busy.
Yeah.
Like first of all, I mean, you guys just got back from somewhere.
We started this whole thing in like February. That was our first show.
Oh my god!
And then we played like 30 something since then.
Yeah.
And we just played Furnace Fest, Birmingham.
That's where you guys just got back
we
from.
were playing one of their like official after parties, which was super sick.
Damn, that's cool.
So that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was 36 hours there and back. We played at 4 a.m.
Oh my god!
Like I was shocked because there were so many people still there.
Really?
There's a lot of people there.
Furnace just looked big. Like I saw a few people that went out there and just like the fest itself.
I think it's like
crazy.
30,000 people.
Yo.
Yeah, which is insane. And we're at this venue called the Nick, which is like pretty historic, kind of like Chili Peppers played there in the 80s. So
Whoa,
that's
okay,
how it was an interesting vibe. But yeah, people just kept coming in. It's like 2, 3 a.m. We're like, is anyone even gonna be here? But man, it seemed like the later it got, the more people were there.
Dang, Birmingham, shout out.
Yeah, right, for real.
Yeah.
We'll be back. 'Cause the crowd was sick.
Is that the first time you guys have traveled out, like of state?
Yeah, that was our first out of state, like legit. Like we had to figure out all the logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had, unfortunately, Stormy drummer didn't get to go because she has tendonitis in her rotator cuff.
That's right, because I saw that she just missed a few shows now.
Yeah, so we're kind of rolling without her for now until they said like 8 weeks. So
wow.
So we've kind of since we're in an album cycle right now, or starting up an album cycle, we're kind of sitting back from shows for a minute anyway.
Gotcha.
So we're just being very selective. So. But yeah, so we like booked a plane ticket, then had to cancel it, booking hotels, booking rental cars, all kinds of stuff. So that was kind of our first, time to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well, which was great because I'm an over planner, but
yeah, I feel like those instances are like really good to learn because like you kind of just have to get thrown into it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, figure it out, like because you want to do this, and obviously like what you're saying, like it was a good experience out there, so it was probably worth it. But yeah, that one of the most amazing things is that you guys have just started this year, like February, because I remember when we had like. You play a show. I remember talking to Dan. I was like, "Oh, you like these?" I was like, "Yeah, they're really good." And I saw I think all you guys. I saw the Talk Too Loud music video, and I saw like all the other music, and I'm like, "Oh, like they've got their stuff down, cool." And it's like, "Oh yeah, they're new," and I'm like, "Well, how new?" Like and it was like new. I'm like, "That's insane!" Like you guys look well put together. I know I was spoken to you before. A lot of the stuff is primarily written by you, correct?
Yeah. So basically, we kind of have things split like in a very structured kind of way. So like. Everything on the like the music side, the writing, the like engineering, production, whatever, all the way through the mastering process and release is just me. And then Hunter and Stormy, they really help me keep it down and bring it all to life. So it's like there's the because Bad Lives, like the music started when I was in college, University of Nebraska, like 2020. Right before the pandemic hit, because I graduated into the pandemic.
Really?
Which was interesting because I have a theater degree, and the whole like theater world was shut down.
Yeah.
And it's now getting started again.
Oh my gosh, how did that feel? Like
it was kind of scary. I mean, fortunately, like my family, like helped me out, and I also did film stuff, so I was doing a lot of freelance work, so it was good because everybody had shut down, so no one was doing live performance, but everyone was doing virtual performance.
You're right, yeah.
So I was like, I'm charging my pro rate and get me at my 150 an hour rate. So it was good. It was good, but yeah. So I started writing, and then the first 4 songs that ended up being like the first EP that I went down to Austin. I worked with one of the guys from Blue October who ended up producing it. Kind of when I was shopping studios, I guess he heard the demos that got passed along from the engineer I was talking to, and then he was like, "Oh, this shit's dope." And then we kind of clicked really, really easily. But all that kind of started, and then I released the EP, and I was like, "Shoot, like, what do I do?" It's Matt. He's the bassist from Blue October. He's like, I've got people that I know that I can help you out with. Like, we can try to reach out. We'll get you set up with like ASCAP, all the business stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is my first band ever.
Ever?
Yeah,
really?
ever. Yeah.
That's
like I didn't.
nuts.
I started
crazy.
playing guitar like 5-6 years ago. That was my first instrument.
What the hell? Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, I mean, say like, because I guess those people at Warner, Sony, whatever, like, say they do. And they're like, we like the music, whatever. We see the potential. Awesome. And I'm like, can you come play for us? I'm like, no, I've never played a show in my life. Like, well, do you have a band? I'm like, no, it's just me.
So before, like, you were like, they were already trying to shop all your stuff out. You didn't like actually have like your band together.
No,
it
yeah,
was just you.
I had never played a show in my entire life. Never played music in front of anybody. Really, the reason I even started playing guitar is because I was acting in high school, and I got a role in Grease, the musical. And I had to play guitar on stage. Ironically, like I was supposed to play really bad, which was great because I was really bad because I never played guitar before. And then I was like,
It's
I
called
guess
method.
Yeah, I was method acting, and I decided I really enjoyed it. First song I learned, "Cigarette Daydreams" by Cage the Elephant, and then I was just like, this is my thing. And then I kept going, and you know, haven't looked back since then. But yeah, I was like, what do I do? So then. I don't know if you're familiar with Bandmix. It's like a social media platform for bands to find musicians and musicians to find bands. It's pretty cool.
No.
Yeah, I don't know how big it is, but I was looking around and that's how I'd found some people to jam with in Nebraska a few times. But Hunter actually found me on there, and the first time he messaged me, I look at his profile picture, and I'm like, "What in the hell?" I thought he was a grown ass man, like because he's this big dude. He's like 6'4".
He's a tall as he's tall.
Big.
He's
and
big.
he had his he was living in Oklahoma at the time, so he had his like big overalls on, and I'm like, who in the hell is this big ass dude with the bass trying to mess? So I didn't answer.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is not the Bad Lies vibe. And then I'm still sitting there for a little while, you know, because I'm kind of just waiting for people to reach out to me. And then he reaches out again a few weeks later. And I don't know if I forgot or like what the situation was, but I answered back. And then
he changed his profile picture.
No, I think it was the same one. I think I'm just an idiot. But then we ended up talking, really got along. He came over to my apartment and we started jamming around and you know, seeing how we vibed together with the music. And then it was a good fit because he's a super nice guy, I'm very, on stage, I'm very alive, but like the second we're off stage, I'm like, I'm going to go hide. And then I give Hunter like a stack of those cards with the QR codes, and I'm like, go make friends.
He's good at that. Like, 'cause I know like I think before we he introduced himself to him, like he came up to me and I was like, oh, okay. And like Hunter's like super friendly and like that. And I feel like the same way, like a lot of people like see this and I'm like, oh, you're really like outgoing and stuff. Like here, like this is my space. You know what I mean? Like I can do it here. And then like I go out, I'm like, all right, like I got to turn it on over here too. Because a lot of this is like social. It's a social business. Like, you know, to like,
it's all networking.
Yeah. And it's weird. I never really thought of it as that way, but that's what that is. It's literally just talking to people is what networking is. It's how you like meet new people and stuff like that. So Hunter came over and like started jamming. Yeah. And won you over.
Yeah. So then we're like, all right, this is like, we're getting there. We're getting there. And then he had a friend who I guess he was in a band with in like the North Richland Hills area with Stormy. And she was a drummer. And it was crazy because like they both knew each other from when they lived in Seattle, and they had both moved back to Texas at similar times, completely separately. Whoa. Yeah. So I'm like, following the storyline there is already like too much for me. This is why I can't watch anime because I'm too dumb.
Oh my God.
But so he calls her in. And we give her a couple weeks to like kind of learn the songs, whatever. And we have a practice. And I caught myself there because I say rehearsal all the time because I'm the theater mind. We had a practice and we kind of saw if we all meshed together, and we did. So we kind of just really hit it hard for like 5-6 months of just practicing. We played a little like preview show at Hunter's parents' bar, and it went pretty well. And then we booked our first show in February at the Ridgely, and then our next show was at the Post with St. Blonde and all them. So that's, and then it's just gone. Like,
and then you like literally running. Busy. Yeah. That's what I've seen. I'm like, dude, I think right after I saw like you guys at that show, I'm like every other, like anytime I like logged on to social media, I was like, they're playing another show. Like I'm like, that's about ass. Like that's once you get that drive and like you get like to start playing, and like I said, that was like, I mean, that was your second show where I saw you, but like I feel like once you start playing and enjoying that time and feeling what that is, like, oh, I don't want this to stop. It's
I know.
Let's keep it going.
Hunter and I, we call it doing the thing.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, we're gonna go do the thing, and then after every show, no matter how it goes, he's always like, we can never stop doing the thing. I'm like, I don't plan to. It's this weird feeling, and I always think it's really like cheesy and corny when you try to describe it to other people. It's just like when you're up there, like literally, like nothing matters. Like it's just like you're playing and you're in this space, and it's just like, and it's like, especially like when it's music like you've created and that's the difference, because like coming from the theater background, I'm like always performing someone else's work, and I'm like, okay, I'm used to performing whatever. Like I don't get nervous going on stage, but now when it's like my art and seeing people like in the show in Birmingham, like we'd never played for those people before, but by the end of the show they were like screaming our shit back at us, and I was like, first of all, great for the songwriting perspective, but also it was just like, it's crazy to see people connect with something you've created.
Because that's the I feel like that's the fulfilling part about creating. It's like there's one part, sure, about making it like you're for yourself and you like enjoy it, but seeing other people that you don't know, especially like connect with something that you've your connection to the art, because like you wrote it, it's from you, so you're automatically connected. But seeing strangers who like don't exactly know like why you wrote this or like how you wrote it or anything, completely just like get enthralled or like move around or whatever, because like people enjoy music at live shows in different ways, you know what I mean? Like there's the people that will go out and jump and dance around and stuff, and there's just the other people like, which I count myself among, where I'm just like staring, I'm like, this is so good. Which I can tell you like that show that I saw you guys, I'm like, yo, what the hell? Like, this is really good. I'm like, I am one of those that just stares, and I'm like, I feel like if people look down at me, they're like, oh, he doesn't like this at all.
That's me, you know what I mean? Me back in the corner, and I'm like, I'm just looking at it. Because I'm a big like gear nerd. I'm like all the techie stuff, whatever. Like we travel around with our little rack.
I saw that because you guys. I feel like that's so dope because you got all of your for everybody is in the like the one case that you guys.
Because like now even more so. We used to have Hunter with his like little bass setup, whatever. Now it's all on the rack. We pull up, we plug the vocal mic in. We've got a little XLR port on our kick drum. There's a mic in there. And then we plug Stormy's ears in, and we're good to go. Like we're on stage and ready, and like
setup wise, and like for tour. I mean, especially probably with like this like last like out of state like kind of thing. It's probably like this what you want, like the most simplest setup to get up and go. You know what I mean? Because that's the biggest. I feel like thing that would be like tough in that, and like especially instances where you're like outside, in this case outside of the state, you don't have anybody else like backing you up, like if you had to figure stuff out. So it's like, let's just get up there one thing, like there's I guess less of a chance of like forgetting stuff. You have your equipment that you just need.
Well, it's great it's great for consistency, but also like we play with some of these bands and they've got 4 or 5 tube amps, and then like 3 microphones. Everybody's got 3 guitars or whatever. Like we traveled there in a Yukon, like one Yukon, everything. We had everything in there. So we're pretty, it's a 3-piece, so it's already kind of light, but especially the way that we play, it's very light. And you can always like, the funny thing is we can always tell what kind of situation we're going to have, like a sound situation, when we pull up, like immediately, when we take the cover off the rack, if the sound guy's like, dude, thank you. We're about to have a good time. If they're like, can you explain that to me? We're like, no.
Because it is among like the, I guess like newer like tech that you would say in gear and stuff like that. So places that are set up for it or know like what they're what they're dealing with new, it's like, okay, great, it's a crazy like good convenience. And then you have like those spots that are like, oh, I don't know
how do I mic that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't think you don't
do that. Which is it's always like a thing I've seen with like going like DI like directed, and then just like still having to mic stuff up, and it looks to be like a huge help and just convenience as far
and
as
it's great because like my voice isn't super trained, so I can't sing super loud, and our stage volume it's just drums, so that's all I'm fighting with.
True, that is true. I didn't even think about it that way. When you got your theater degree, what did you like sing in that? Is that like
so I didn't do acting. I was in design, so I'm a lighting designer, I'm a sound designer, I'm a scenic designer, and then I'm a scenic painter.
Oh, okay.
So I'm all over the place.
Badass. That's cool.
Like, I have a minor in audio engineering, and that's kind of where like I started to really get into things, because I'm as much as I am like a writer, I'm a audio engineer even more so. Like I love producing. I love, recording music almost more than writing it sometimes.
Interesting. Do you? I know you recorded like all of your stuff and produced like for Bad Lives. Have you done anybody else's like stuff projects that you worked on?
I've done small things for friends. I want to get more into it, and now I've moved into my own place, and I'm starting to build up my studio and all that. So that's the goal. If I was looking at like my ideal life plan, I would love for, Bad Lives to put me in a place where I could, be financially independent, but also I would love for it to network me into positions where I could, work with other artists who kind of would vibe with my producer spirit.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that's like a fantastic combination. One, it's always great to be able to keep all the stuff that you create in-house, like, complete control over it, and just like you don't have to slow down for like any ideas. Like you have an idea, like you immediately can go in there and create. And which is like, the way you're saying, like literally Bad Life started that way, where you like wrote all this music like on your own and were able to record it and produce like everything, and still get help like from like the people like the engineers and stuff. But you have that ability, and that's like something that in this like new age of like songwriters and stuff that I've seen, I love that spirit of being able to like not only write your own music but like completely like record it, and if you wanted to put it out like as soon as you're done with it, you can do that. Like the independent spirit of it is so like crazy inspiring, and just like, oh, you want to put something out, it's no longer like it's not like as what is it? Past tense of gatekeep. I guess gatekeep. Like no one can really.
There's less
keep
like
you
bureaucracy
from,
now.
Yeah, no one can really keep you from like creating stuff and putting it out there. Like there's strategies and stuff like that, but like if you want to just make music and put it out, like you have like stuff at your disposal that's relatively inexpensive these days that you can like get and create for like your own like first home studio to at least do like pre-production or stuff like that if you're taking it to somebody else. But I love the fact that like musicians can do that. Like
I'm recording like. But I went to Austin to record the drums for the new album, but like I'm recording everything else on a 3rd gen little 2i2 Focusrite.
Oh really? Yeah.
And it sounds fucking sick. It sounds great. So like, the barrier to entry is so low right now.
Yeah.
You see like people like Billie Eilish record Grammy-winning stuff in their bedroom.
Or like on the tour
mic
bus. It's like, I saw like the documentary. Like we sat there and watched it, and we were like, I was like, yo, that song was recorded on the bus? Like, what do you mean? And I was like, okay. And that's like, honestly, like inspired me even more. I'm like, that is like an artist that's so freaking huge right now that is doing everything as simple like as they can, because it's more about like the idea rather than like figuring out like, oh, I have to be at recording at a certain level or go to a certain place. And I feel like when I was younger, I felt that was the thing. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it on my own. Like I'm gonna need to have like the latest and greatest of anything, and I'm like, if I don't have it, like I'm gonna have to go somewhere, and I would like not allow myself to try to start at the bottom, because I'm like, it's gonna take me too long to catch up to any of this, and then like figuring out that like, oh, like if I start small, like I'll eventually get to. So like that's what like DJ who like helps basically created NoiseROT and Chill Sounds and everything. He's been like working on like producing and recording like for quite a while. And same thing, I've got to see like his mixes go from like where they start out to where they're at now, and I'm like, yo, it's just like chipping at it until like you get to a place where you're comfortable. But like that's one thing where I'm like, dude, I'm jealous that you as a musician can like create an idea and then immediately go and like actually like record it and put it out and do something with it. Like
financially it's great, because like in the beginning, I'd never been in bands, whatever. I'd never done serious studio stuff. So I was kind of disillusioned. I was like, well, shit, if I want it to sound good, I gotta go to like the best studio, and I gotta have the best engineers, and I gotta have, this Telefunken $15,000 mic going into this old Neve preamp through a compressor, whatever, best converters, all that nerd stuff. But I go down to the studio. It's called Orb Recording Studios in Austin. It's run by one of the guys from Blue October. Grammy-nominated studio. Lots of people go there. And I worked with an engineer. His name's Victor. And he's like, man, all I'm worried about is capturing the vibe. Because any good mix engineer is going to be able to turn that into something great. And that kind of totally changed me now. Because now I spent $6,000 on an EP to start, and now I'm spending $4,000 on a 12-song album. Because I'm like, okay, now the value in those experiences was there because I paid that money, but I learned so much. And, you know, the value per like what I got recording wise may not have, you know, been equal, but now, because of those experiences, I'm saving a lot of money because I'm like, all right, I know I got to go to a great room and get good drum sounds and everything, but everything else I can kind of do on my own.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, saving me crazy money then.
That's crazy. See, like that's one thing, and it's one that what you mentioned just right now, just how much you spend, even on both of those like things, is one of the things that I always like wanted to highlight with like artists, especially like when you're starting out like at a, you know, at the local level. It's like people don't see like how much money like goes into, and that's just your EP. You know what I mean? Like that's still not everything you used to play with. Like I can't imagine what that rig costs. You know what I mean? All of that
you
stuff.
Don't
you don't have to disclose it, but that stuff. You know, like the guitars used to travel. You know what I mean? Like how you have to just figure out that trip. You know. And that's why, like, I don't think people like really get to see like that. So when they go like to a show, and that's what it was so weird how like when I finally had to kind of switch that mentality, because in a band like. I remember when we started making shirts, I'm like, we have to sell them at like $2 above cost. You know what I mean? I don't want to charge like all this stuff at, but I'm like, first of all, like you have to, because like all the money you've already spent, and then second, like people generally like aren't buying a T-shirt just because they want a T-shirt.
No, they want to support.
They want to support the band. Yeah, so like they will, like they're normally perfectly fine with paying like whatever you charge for the shirt, because like that shirt's not like, oh, like. As a band, like that money's not going to like, oh, I get to keep this and like spend money, you know, right now. It's all getting reinvested like into like the next like, you know, level or
more shirts
or more shirts or more everything. Like it's all just going back into like the band itself to create more music. Like so, it's like every time you go to a show and you can, like it's always important to try to support like either whoever one you can. You pick your favorite if you can't, or that, or people are on tour or things like that. But you do have to like place that value because you know you place the value into yourself, and it's like, okay, like I know I'm spending this money like into, because this is what I want, you know, it's what I want, and I want it to sound like a certain way. When it comes to like writing music, do you have a hard time coming to like to finishing music, to be like, hey, like this is where, you know, it's finally as good as like I'm gonna get it, or do you like keep continuous projects? Do you have to like come back to them? Or
this is kind of a like multi-phase kind of answer. So recently we partnered with this this distribution label in New York. I think they're out of Buffalo. They're called Friend Club Records. And we were turned on to them by a band that we are friends with called Painted Light, who are also North Texas based math rock band. Super cool.
Painted Light.
Definitely check them out. But they are, I mean, they're doing stuff with Emery. They're doing stuff with like these legit bands, like putting out physical media. So they put out these really cool limited edition vinyl cassettes. We just put out a cassette with
you
them.
Guys just put out a cassette.
And it's super freaking sick. Y'all should go buy it.
Buy
it at the show. Buy it on the website.
Will be available.
But they're very structured in the way that they think about releasing music. So, and I'm not. I'm like you were saying earlier. I finished a song and I'm like, hell yeah, let's put it out. And I'm not thinking, you know, release strategy, marketing, blah 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 blah, all the bureaucracy stuff that matters. But I hate that it matters.
That captures that perfectly. I hate that it matters, because like, you just want to like write music, put it out, like it's like this is good, like it should do well, and it doesn't translate like that, like, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of good music that comes out, and then like in this day and age, because what we were just talking about, how it's so accessible, like to write, everybody's like writing, so it's like, so you do have to like think about like, okay, how does this get released, like how do we put this out, what's gonna be the most, like how are we gonna like stay relevant longer? So this is like a conversation I've had like with artists of like the whole releasing an entire album all at once, or do you go the single every like other month kind of like strategy? They both have their merits, you know what I mean? Because like the whole like releasing a single, like if you release a single every month or every other, because if you have 12 songs, you could ideally release those over a year, right? You know, but I also see like if you write an album, at least for me, like I love listening to that album, you know, the correct in order.
It has intentionality.
You know, I'm sure, because I've like written stuff before, and I'm like, I'm sure people will write an album like it's supposed to like be, you know, it's supposed to be listened to in a certain way, and so like fighting that against it, it's kind of a little weird. Which do you have a preference on like what you're like when you look at for releasing?
So you know, my mind is my mind is very like, it's very combative, because there's a side of me that understands the business and like is cognizant of the business and wants to, wants to be successful, and I have to understand that, some things you can't budge with. You got to be. So I'm like, okay, the single EP platform is more relevant, especially with attention spans being so low.
Yes.
A lot of, I'm a teacher. I can't get kids to pay attention for 5 minutes. So I'm like, how am I going to get them to listen to a 40-minute album?
Yeah.
And that's the next generation of listeners. That's the way that it is. But then there's a side of me that's creative who's like, oh man, I created this album. It's 12 songs, and I just want people to just hear it the way that I hear it.
Yeah.
Fully, track list, the track list that I want, the like curated however I want. I want the art to be cohesive. So I'm still in process with that. I'm still in process fighting with myself like every day with that kind of stuff. And I'm figuring it out.
It's a definite battle. And where you're talking about attention spans, like everything like these days is designed, like everything people are using, like social media especially, is designed for you not to spend a lot of time like watching a certain clip. Like you watch part of it and then that's it. You move on to the next thing.
I had a conversation with Victor, who has engineered everything that I've done, and we're talking about some of these songs, and some, like, as much as I hate it, there were changes made to the album arrangement-wise to make songs more palatable, because I like to make songs satisfying. So I want to make it where you listen to it once and it's fully satisfying. You're like, that was a song. That was a good song. I enjoyed that. But do I need to listen to it again right now? No. I'm gonna sit with that.
Yeah.
But so he's like, man, you're a 3-chorus kind of guy. Maybe you should think about being a 2-chorus kind of guy, because replay value is important. Clicks, streams, follows, saves, playlist ads, all of these, data points are things that labels are going to look for when they come talk to you, if that's something you're interested in. So you need to be cognizant of this. So there's a couple songs that, like, as much as I hate it, they went from 3-chorus songs to 2-chorus songs, which I'm happy about. I don't love that I had to do that, and I didn't have to, but I knew I had to,
Yeah, that is, it is this weird battle between, like, you're right, the artist side, which is just like, I just want to write something, like, and again, like writing something good, like something I am happy with creating, but you're having to battle that with the fact that, like, yeah, I need this to be listened to, like, over and over again. And you, like, I'll look at that and look at like stuff that is getting played so often, so frequently, and I listen to the song as a song sometimes, like, and I'm like, okay, like, it's not an incredible song, but I have replayed it a bunch of times. You know what I mean? And it's figuring out just what you want to do. I guess finding a balance, to be honest with you, because it is that constant fight. Because you could write stuff that's just satisfying to you, and yeah, you will find. I just believe, like, there's so many people out there, like, listening to music now, that you will always find, like, a group that is gonna, like, love listening to this stuff. But it's like, when you want to make it your livelihood and stuff like that.
Yeah, I talk to Hunter about that all the time. I'm like, what is the goal here? Because if the goal is to make music that we love and play shows locally and have a good time, then all right, we'll just do whatever we want. And, whatever opportunities come, cool. But if we're trying to, grow beyond even the salaries we're making now to the point where we can do this as a viable thing and play, around the country, around the world, have people support us with getting supported by streams at this point is basically not possible.
It's not possible, yeah.
But it's a part, and then people buy records, people blah blah blah. So we're thinking, there's a compromise there that we have to live with.
What do you feel about that, with, like, basically, like, streams not being able to really support anything anymore?
I have a very strong opinion about that, because basically the way it went down when it started, my understanding is that in exchange for access to their libraries, these labels got a stake, a ownership stake in, like, say something like Spotify. So like, okay, let us access your whole library. We'll play it out to our audience. We'll give you 5% of Spotify. So they kind of cut the artists out of being able to decide whether or not they were going to go from, if someone wanted to listen to your song, they had to pay, $9 to $12 for a CD. Now you're getting 0.04 cents per stream. That's a, like, ridiculous decrease that you had no control over. So I understood why people like like Taylor Swift were like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually she came around because it's just, what, are you never going to sell music again?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. But, you know, for small artists, we don't really have a choice.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks that you have to accept as a small, well, like, I just need to have it be as most accessible. Like, you know, Taylor Swift, like, has, like, had the luxury of being like,
she'd go platinum
yeah.
if her songs were, like, on 8 tracks. People would be like, guess I gotta go buy an 8 track.
Like,
damn it.
But, like, yeah, as a small artist, you're like, okay, I just kind of have to accept it because I need my music to have as wide a reach as possible.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I think people, like, still upload their stuff to Bandcamp and stuff where they get, or SoundCloud, where you can get like direct like access to all this stuff. Because otherwise, you know, yes, Spotify will give you the access, but or Spotify or Apple Music. I even think like eventually like iTunes is going away, like purchasing stuff.
We look at our like our analytics data from Spotify and from Apple Music, and it's not even. Apple Music's got to be 5% of our overall streams. Nobody's using it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because they failed to innovate and update. It's been the same platform for 10 years.
Yeah, they didn't change much to it. Because I have a few people that have it, and I'm like, why do you have Apple Music? And literally, I was like, oh, it came with my like cell phone plan.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, okay, like that's why you're at it. And then you see like some of these other ones like still pop up, and it's still that was the thing of the innovation of it all. I mean, I thought before. I think when I wasn't playing music, and then the first like streaming thing I ever did was one called MOG, M-O-G.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I think that's the one that Beats Music made, and then butchered it. But anyways, like it was basically what you would see as Spotify these days. Literally just like a bunch of artists. Their, you know, radio algorithm was great. Where it's like if you played something, I usually would find like a bunch of other artists that I had no clue about. I'm like, okay, that's great, but I never really took into account because I was like, how did like. I pay like $10. Like, what do you mean? Like, I get access to like all this stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, every, and it was like everything. And I'm like, that's nuts. And then you look at it now, I'm like, that's crazy. Like that, you know, the artists like before, you're right. You'd go out and buy a CD, or even when stuff was getting released through iTunes or whatever, people would download whole albums or even singles.
You could get your song for 99 cents instead of $9.99. That's still a drastic reduction.
It's still a giant reduction. You know what I mean? And I think it's a weird like thing because I love the fact that like more people have access to listen to a lot of music, and it's opened people to like a lot more genres that they listen to, and I enjoy that. But the fact that like, oh damn, the artist like is not getting anything out of this.
Because you're seeing it from two perspectives. You're seeing it from the fan side, who's like, this is great, I get everything right here on my little phone, and then you're seeing it from the artist side. I'm like, man, I'm getting screwed.
Which is why like being able to have access to like live performances and stuff. Every time I'm there, I'm like, oh, I know that. Most people like this is where they make their money, like their touring, their merch, all this stuff like is where they get most of their money, because all the other stuff is if they're on label or whatever, and it's going straight to like paying back like your label stuff, and this is like the stuff that normally goes directly like back to bands. Although I've heard of like deals now where labels are trying to like take part of people's like touring and their like merch and stuff.
You know, something I would have never. Well, coming back from COVID, I mean, I didn't have the perspective of venues before, but I watch a lot of content and stuff and try to educate myself. And like venues are trying to take merch splits now, and I'm like, come on!
I didn't know that was a thing. When I was playing shows like in my band a while back, I heard about that, and like I had never played a venue that did it, but I heard like, oh, the touring bands that we were playing with would be like, oh yeah, I'm happy this venue doesn't do like merch splits, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, oh yeah, like the other venues take like 10% of everything we sell. I'm like, what? Like what? For what? You know what I mean? Like what the hell? Like what do you mean? And that's just crazy to me. Like it's little stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because like most of these bands are just trying to make enough to like make it to the next town and eat and whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't know many like bands starting out that come back with actual money. It's mostly like, oh, we made enough to make that, like to tour.
Well, especially if you're buying on, which is so like so common now. I mean, if you want to play anywhere significant now, you're basically either you're paying advance for tickets that you have to sell to make your money back just to break even, or you're buying on to, I mean, like you're buying on a tour, it could be 10, 15 grand.
I guess I'd never been really exposed to that, and then I spoke to somebody who they were running like their business, and that's when he's like, oh yeah, like the artists buy on, and I'm like, what are you talking about? What does that mean?
Yeah.
He's like, oh well, they pay like this much to get on the show, and then we give them tickets and they can sell and make their money back, and I'm like, oh, that's a thing. And he's like, yeah, it's like really common. And I'm like, oh, damn. Like outside of like, I was in my bubble and that kind of like burst. And I'm like, oh, that's how it runs. Like if you don't like pay this money, like you're not playing shows and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like you'll never get to play, or like you're constantly like losing.
It's a
money.
grind,
Yeah.
and that's where like I mean there's a level of burnout that we're suffering with right now, just at the amount of volume we've been playing, but also like we feel like we're in the middle of two levels. Like we feel like we've kind of hit DFW really hard.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, we've kind of tackled what we want to tackle, but we're not quite to a level where we can say, all right, we're going to step up to that next level of bands and we're going to be playing here, blah, blah, blah. So now we're like, do we keep eating shit, or like how do we move forward without, you know, playing these shows that have promoters who aren't promoting. They're just it's like they're calling themselves the promoter, but they're actually the booker. So they're booking you, and they're like, all right, you got to sell 40 tickets. And I'm like, well, we played, you know, 6 shows this month so far, and we pulled at these shows, but we can't keep asking people to come see us 30 times in 5 months.
In the same,
like the whole point, we'd feel like, okay, we're coming to North Richland Hills. We've never played North Richland Hills before. We want to access that market. And they're like, oh no, you have to bring all your people. I'm like, then why are we playing here?
Yeah, and it's this weird thing, and it's one of the things that actually like I've tried to tackle along with like NoiseROT is that was my thing. I'm like, okay, like I want to just make little stuff. So this was the start to that. So when we finally decided to start this, honestly, it was just my only contribution to like Chill Sounds last year. I'm like, besides like helping day of, I'm like, I'll create this. I go, we'll run like 6 and just to promote the festival for you. And I'm like, okay. And then once we did it, I'm like, I enjoyed that. Like, let's just keep it going. And the more I started doing it, I'm like, oh, this is my way that I can use to help like promote like some of these artists. I'm like, okay. And then once we did NoiseROT, I'm like, I want to create content. Like, so like little like reels and stuff that I'll put out for shows. I'm like, I go, just little stuff that like will actually like promote shows that we're throwing. I go, cause that's our job. Like, you know, that's sure the bands like will promote too and like bring their people, but I gotta make sure people know who these people are if they don't. So like my whole plan is just I just been needing to get help. That's all it was. And like now with like even the podcast, like, you know, Bert who you met, like is now helping me like do the podcast and edit and stuff now, so I can open myself to more content creating on this side, because that's ideally what I want to do, is just create more stuff that, you know, bands are doing a bunch of stuff already, you know what I mean? And then, you know, social media is a big thing that bands will need to get into, and it's one of those battles where I'm like, I've even like stalled off from like starting the NoiseROT TikTok, because I'm like, once I get going, like I'm gonna have to create every day and hit it hard. That's
a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But like show wise, we're kind of getting to the point now where like, I mean, we'd rather go to a show and play for free, like just free tickets, general admission, whatever. You know, venues making their money on beer and whatever anyways. We'd rather play for free than, you know, charge and have to sell tickets to all the same people who come to our shows over and over. We'd rather play for 100 people who just walked off the street and don't even know what they're walking into than bringing the same people who are already fans of ours.
And there's plenty of like opportunities like that around. It's just being able to find them, because there's people always hiring like musicians to play, you know, entire sets. Normally they're asking for really long sets.
Yeah, it's like we want a cover band who's gonna play 4 hours or whatever. Like blues band that'll play like semi-originals, like derivative tunes for 3 hours, and we're like, you know, we're kind of not that.
Yeah. So it is hard to try to find those types of gigs. But like, the big part at the moment is like, how do you build a fan base, and how do you build like an actual fan base? Because even like clicks and stuff online don't, you know, equate people coming out to shows like, you know, connections do, like actually getting out there and having people see you live and maybe talking to you for a bit or whatever, creating some sort of relationship. We're like, oh, okay, I'll come to the next one, or next time I'll probably bring a friend or something like that, or just things like that. And it's kind of tough because it's a lot of like social interaction that you need to keep up with, and it's
draining.
It's very draining, especially to keep like actual like semi-meaningful like relationships.
I
with
know,
these
not
people,
to
you know
just like sell it and be like, yeah, it was great to see you. Oh, great set, blah blah blah.
Yes, the old great set. Yeah. And actually, it's terrible. Like that's why I literally like never say anything to anybody unless I'm like, if I need to mean this shit. Like I need to mean it. Like I can't. Like but I won't give the good set anymore. If I'm like, you know what, I really didn't enjoy that. I'm not gonna say anything.
I'm just gonna go hide.
Yeah.
But I have like very meaningful business conversations with Victor whenever we're recording. He's a super knowledgeable guy because I mean he works with like Snoop Dogg. He works with all these people. And we're talking about like marketing and stuff. And obviously social media is the thing. If your engagements aren't legit, then it doesn't. It's like we see these artists who are like they'll sign with these PR firms or whatever, and you know it's very obvious that they're manufacturing this following for them. And I'm like, okay, when you stop paying them this ridiculous amount of money, it's all gonna fall away. And we're like we're talking about how to get meaningful engagement and stuff. Like you're saying. My mind's flying away. Oh, so we were talking about Instagram ads. And he's like, okay, you're running Instagram ads. Well, you know, you got to figure out what people are clicking on. You got to figure out blah, blah, blah. And he was telling me you got to train the algorithm, which is really interesting to me because I'd never thought about it. He's like, when you run ads, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I do like $7, $8, $9 a day to reach X amount of people who I've decided are Bad Lives fans. And he's like, what you should do is scale up. So he's like, say you have a $200 marketing budget for this song. Day 1, just give it $1. Day 2, give it $2. 3, 4, 5, go up and up and up and up until you're at that like, all right, I was going to spend $10 a day just to start. But every day before that, the algorithm has learned, all right, you spent $1, we reached 100 people. These are the 2 people that clicked. Of those 2 people that clicked, these are the people that actually did whatever the thing was. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now the $2 day, they're targeting those type of people. And they're like, all right, we're going to reach those 2 people, and we're going to think, okay, out of now the big group of those 2 specific people, what even more specific person engaged with the content? And then you're training the algorithm so you're maximizing your money. By day 5, you've spent $15 instead of $50, but the algorithm's smarter. So on day 6, when you're spending $6, or day 10, when you're spending $10, you're actually getting value out of that.
Interesting.
I'd never thought of it that way. When he said that, my mind was like, I was like,
idea.
Holy crap.
First of all, I'm just like, I was just like, okay, you got to spend more money just to make it. But that makes sense if you can train it that way, and that way it actually pays attention to the people paying attention to the actual content. Because otherwise, I kind of figured it. I'm like, how does it know like what you're reaching out to?
Which
like
it doesn't until it does.
Yeah, like it's got to get some feedback, I guess, in order to determine like, okay, who do we reach out to next? It's
like all those little things that I'm learning. Like we have these cards with QR codes. Send you to our link tree. We're like, that's great. They'll have all our links there. He's like, no. You have to tell people exactly what you want them to do. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. If there's more than one step, they're not going to do it. So he's like, just put your Spotify on the card. If you're trying to increase your engagement to your Spotify, just have it go direct to your Spotify. Say, hey, scan this. Click follow. And it'll take them directly to Spotify. They'll see Bad Lives, and they'll be like, follow.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of the engagement. Like, oh, click this. It'll take you to our link tree. You can do whatever you want. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they maybe do it later. But instead, you can get someone on the spot right there, and you'll be like, oh, click, scan this. Click that follow right there. It means a lot. Helps us out. And they did it. And they've forgotten that they've done it. But every time you release a song, it shows up on their release radar. And they forget because people don't follow people on Spotify a whole lot, which is what I've learned. I thought that was a normal thing because I'm like a very specific type of person. I'm like, I like this artist. Follow. But people don't do that. So when they forget they did it, they get all your music every single time you release it.
That's actually really smart, and it just plays into like just make it as simple as possible. Because you're right, if it's more than one step, like it's kind of hard. Which is why like even on our ticket stuff, I'm like, we need to make an instructional video like to tell people like that they can like how to actually support the band you want to do. So we like had to do an actual like you know like a reel on like on Instagram and be like, this is how you do it. You know what I mean, to do it. But like if making it the simplest way possible, and then maybe instead of like you're saying like the link tree, which had links to like everything, you like pick one specific goal and like this is what we're aiming for now. This is the most important thing, and getting people, because that's easy to like oh, pull it up on your phone, and most people have like whatever streaming thing they have on, which like Spotify is like always the most popular. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, just click follow, and they'll, again, it's not anything big that's gonna like really disrupt.
It costs nothing, you know? But it means, I mean, I would arguably say, you know, we got stickers for $3 $3 or whatever. I mean, someone following us on Spotify arguably means more than that sale.
Yeah.
In the long run. I mean, it's great that we were supported in that moment, but if they keep consistently getting our music, then we're in the back of their mind every time. They're like, Bad Lives. How do I know?
Without them having to actually go directly to your Instagram.
How do I know Bad Lives?
Something that most people use every day, which is like whatever they're streaming their stuff on, will have access to, like, you have access to their, you know, whatever their Spotify like algorithm is, because like they've already, you know, followed it. And I can definitely see how that's probably a bigger win than, you know, like a small sell or something like that. You mean all of it is helpful?
Yeah, obviously support us in any way you possibly can.
Whether it's stickers, right here. Oh, I left the pin over there. That pin's dope. That pin is badass. I was
thank you.
But yeah, like it's even just talking about it right now, I'm like, there's so much that goes into,
and it's exhausting.
It's very exhausting. Figure it out. And it's just like I said, all we've been talking about is like one section of like all this stuff.
That's what we're looking at everything on a macro scale. We're looking at everything. I'm like, okay, what all am I doing? Because I'm looking at, you know, outsourcing some of this labor. I'm like, all right, we're kind of growing. We're pretty okay. Like, who can we hire to make this easier? I'm like, oh shit. Like, there's a booking manager. There's just a general manager that like goes ahead, makes sure all your stuff's in order. And you got your PR, your marketing team, like your distribution team, your sync people, your licensing people. Like, the list just goes on and on and on. And I'm like, I didn't even realize I was doing all of this stuff. Yeah. That's why I'm so tired.
Because you like, again, because like most of us want to keep all of that in-house as much as you can.
That's the whole label thing is like, all right, do I give up 90% of what I've created for the reach of a label and the resources of a label? Maybe I make more with that 10% than I would ever make independent. Or do I try to ride with it myself, keep, you know, grinding, and maybe somehow break through all the mess and supersede whatever that 10% would have been. That's the, like, the, for lack of a better word, conundrum.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, because like I don't have any label experience, so I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And it's I think with labels, it's having the patience to wait for like because I've seen some like actually like good deals, and I'm like, but they took a while. You know what I mean? It took a while, and you have to like say no to offers, which, like, if you're an artist, like, I don't know, me in the back of my head, I'd be like, what if this is the only one? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what
and that's gotta hurt. You know I mean? They're like $50,000 advance. And you're like, what? That's my yearly salary. Like, I guess I'm just gonna take it. That's not in that situation yet, but I try to like
prepare for it.
I'm always 6 steps ahead. Yeah. That's what, like, Hunter keeps me grounded in that way, because he's been playing in bands longer than I have, way longer than I have. And like when we did this deal with Friend Club, I'm like, all right, cool, check. That was something I wanted to happened. I'm already miles ahead, thinking of ways to make the next things happen. And he's like, you just got to take a minute and like sit back and think, like, how many bands do you know like have distribution deals and are like gonna have vinyl in stores or cassettes in stores? Like, isn't that like awesome? And I'm like, that is pretty cool. Yeah. I'm so pushing so hard all the time that I never take a minute and sit back and like enjoy where I'm at, because I'm like, if I do that, I'm gonna miss what's ahead. Yeah. It's just constant grind.
I mean, that also shows like how like the band you've built is like helping you. You know what I mean? Like having someone to ground you is so important. You know what I mean? To even just to, you know, hold you down when you are like you said, you're someone that thinks about like what are the next like, you know, 6 steps ahead of me, instead of you know, one, taking the time to enjoy like where you are, enjoy what you're doing, like what you've created, but also letting you kind of maybe like take the fog out, you know what I mean, and just like get a clearer picture on like what's important. Because like at a time, like you said, at a macro stance, you think like all of these things are important, I need to do all of them at once, and then you end up like not making a lot of ground on any of them. But once you start like picking like, okay, this is the more important. The same thing with like the reach, and like, okay, we'll pick one thing instead of this link tree, we'll pick one thing and focus on that and work on it by one, or figure out what you can outsource, you know what I mean, which is a kind of hard thing. Even like even like with me in this, and like finally getting someone to help me edit out, because I was for the longest time like, I'm gonna have to find someone that I give control to of like how to
of
edit this, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then like I started working. Luckily, like, you know, Bert's been a damn dream, like because everything improved. Like everything looks better now. Like it's like an all production, and we can keep it like all still in house. Someone that I found that understands me, that can like, okay, like we can get these ideas done, and just help me be like, and actually has been helping me be like more creative and figure out like newer things I can do, because now I can move on from one idea. I appreciate this now. Okay, let's move on to the next move.
No, I'm super like grateful to have Hunter and Stormy on my side, because I mean, I'm really happy we're a very low drama band, and I feel like it could be not our situation, but I feel like if there was a, you know, parallel universe situation, exact same situation, it could be so different, because we're in a situation where if Bad Lies blows up, it's just, I mean, contractually, I own everything. So it could be like a peace, like, thank you, thanks for growing me, I'm out, like, this whole record deal's mine. But I'm happy that like I'm dealing with genuinely good people. We all care for each other. We all like just, and I'm hoping this is something that comes across when we play, is we just love being up there. Like we're just super happy to be up there. So I'm happy that like in my mind, I can't see myself moving forward without at least trying to take them with me.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that.
That definitely comes through, because it's one thing as I've just like grown in like the music scene, is one thing I appreciate a lot more is the chemistry up there. Like if you look like you're having a good time, like it's just as important as like how you played like that music, and then almost even more sometimes, because like your audience, unless they like if you're reaching out, which at this stage you're reaching out to a lot of like new people, you know what I mean, just like that show, so like they're not gonna know like how that song goes. So if you mess up or do or whatever, like it doesn't sound like exactly what the record sounds. If they're listening to you for the first time, but they see like this band's chemistry was fantastic, they're up there having a great time, it'll lead them to be like, that was great. And I've had those so many times where when I've played, I come off and I'm like, oh, I used to be like, oh, I messed up all this, and people are like, that was so great, like I love this and blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but I messed up this. I'm like, and I got to a point, I'm like, why am I bringing that up? They don't notice that. Know. Like, why would I like ruin like, and then still like put it like a whole like bummer on them, or like, oh, okay, I guess
that did suck.
I guess it did. Yeah, and then you know, but that's something like that does have a lot of weight. Like when you, especially in live performances, especially when like that's your direct connect to people like in person. Like if they see you having a great time, then they'll maybe even be like more open to like coming up to like the merch table and like talking, or you know, whether they don't buy anything, maybe you get them to follow you on Spotify, but being more open to more approachable, I guess, or whatever, in whatever it's like, you know, whatever aspect that reaches in, whether it's you, whatever character you're up there, because I know it's hard to keep that same like, you know, persona up there when you come down, but it still allows people to want to actually get to know you, because that's the most thing. People love community. People love being able to relate to stuff, to talk to you like, oh, this song, you know, you could have wrote it about something, but to them it means something else.
That's always the weirdest thing to me.
Is it?
Yeah, because like I am not what you would call like a very conscious lyric writer. I'm all about vibe. I'm thinking how cool is this going to be to play live? Yeah. Like, that's my thought. So a lot of my lyrics, like when I'm writing, because the process for writing a song for me is really fast. Like, I'll sit down for 6 or 8 hours and knock out the entire song. And then I'm like, that one's done. Next one. Because I'll write, like there was a period in college where I was writing a song every day. So I've got hundreds of B-sides in the ether, like
really? Oh my god,
sitting on hard drives. So I'm like, when I'm writing, I'll step up to the mic and I'll just kind of improv, and I'll be like, all right, thinking of melody, now let's think of syllables that fit within that melody, and now let's make some of the words make sense, I guess. And then that's kind of how it stays. I don't change a whole lot unless it's just completely incoherent between the demo phase and the actual like production phase. But it's always interesting when people come up to me and they're like, that song really connected to me for XYZ reason. And I'm always like, because I look at these songs retroactively and I'm like, I was kind of out of place in my life and I was saying things that were reflective of that, and I wasn't conscious of doing that. So it's always really interesting to me, or people will come ask me like, what does the song mean? and they always get really disappointed because I'm like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll interpret it different ways depending on where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So that always freaks me out.
But that the way you said, like, when like retroactively going back and being like, oh, like this maybe did make sense because I was at this point. I feel like writing, I've had that instance where I've like I'm a big like melody writer first.
Yeah.
And because I love singing, so it's like, I'll figure that out, and then I just work out syllables and rhythms, and I'm like, yeah, that's okay. And then I'll normally like sing a few words and then try to figure out why the hell those words.
Why they make sense.
Like,
and then I gotta, especially like me with the like art degree, I'm like, I can sell anything. I can make anything make sense. I'd be like, talk about why they designed this table this way and why it was the smartest way to possibly design a table. So there's a part of me that's thinking like that. I'm like, I can sell anything. It doesn't need to be something. Which is, it's kind of a switch that I've taken now in this new album where I'm like, I should probably try to be a little more conscious about what I'm writing. Because sometimes they'll come out and Alex will be like, this song sounds like Alex, my girlfriend, and she's like, that song sounds really weird. Like, it sounds like you're saying some weird like stuff. Did you mean to say that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't. I was just thinking, ooh, that's a nice melody.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be more conscious now, which is good. I don't like it, but I like it.
But the thing is, like, another thing, like, it's a common topic, like, on these podcasts is, like, as an artist, like, even if we write something to mean a specific thing, like, once we release it, like,
it's not ours anymore.
Yeah, it's no longer our control. Like,
it's whoever's listening to it.
Everybody will interpret it a different way. And I've had that where I'll, like, talk to, like, artists and then be like, oh, this song, means like this, like, to me. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's not what I wrote, you know what I mean? Or that's not why I wrote. I'm like, oh, too bad, you know what I mean? Like,
it sucks to suck.
Yeah, but then I've also had that the reverse of that, where like I've had people come up to me like after shows and be like, "Oh, this song like is about this," and I'm like, "No." Like I remember, this is like lyrically, like I don't know why my band let me get away with a line, but I said something really dumb. I'm not gonna repeat it. But somebody said that they wanted to get it tattooed on them, and I'm like, please don't do that. Yeah. Like he might, I don't know if he'll listen to this, but because he's like, we're friends. I'm like, yeah, don't do that, man. Like that's like, and to this day, it's like one of the lines I consider like one of my worst lines ever written. But again, like that means something completely different to them. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't have control over that, which is. It's cool, but I sometimes it's like, oh, like, it's that one little frustration.
We had very specific, and we just released a song called Tattoos, and it's an acoustic song.
Yes.
And it's like, we
were just listening to it.
It's a departure from like our normal thing. And we had someone message us on Facebook the day that it released, and like, this song made me cry. And I was like, this is kind of a love song.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, we're recording our new album, and someone in our local community who had been there for like a long time, she's known as the Queen of Punk in our area. She passed away from cancer, and just something about like the whole general vibe of that just hit me, and I had a little breakdown, and I just want to tell you thank you. And I was like, that's so weird, but I mean, it felt great.
Yeah, think about how like beautiful that is. You know what I mean? Like, and that's someone that reached out. Like, think about like how many people it does like hit, and like. You won't know, you know what I mean? It's just a really beautiful thing of how like music just connects, because I think about that all the time with like artists, that songs that I've like had to leave on repeat because I'm like, this is I don't know, speaking to every bit of my being right now, and like, they I haven't ever talked to them about that, they don't know about this, but it means something to me. So an art form that you create for yourself like potentially creates all these connections with all these people out there, and I think that's beautiful. That's one thing I do like enjoy about music and like the internet and stuff like that, how much reach stuff has these days.
That's something I appreciate about being small right now, because I'm telling myself like, I'm hoping that we grow and become like huge like everybody, but I appreciate that I can talk to people still. Yeah. Like, if I love some My Chemical Romance song, I can't text Gerard Way or email him and be like, man, that was some fire, homie. Yeah. Like he's never gonna see that shit. But like someone can email me, someone walk up to me getting my hair cut at like Sports Clips and be like, man, that song was dope, and I'm like, it was.
That's it. You're right. Like that's it is there's got to be an appreciation for that. Like, right, and it's one of those moments like, let's appreciate like where like we are like at the moment to be able to do this, but like just before we like cut off, so you are like working on a new album currently?
Yeah, it's like it's been written, the drums have been done, we recorded them in June. I'm recording everything else in my own studio, and then we'll send it out for mixing in like November, December. We'll have, the release cycle hopefully will start at the end of January, and then it should be coming out sometime April or May. But I'm a writing fiend. It's hard for me because I'm like, oh, I gotta record this music that I've been listening to on repeat for a year already. I'm already writing the next album. Like that's where my mind is at.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're rolling. Not a whole lot left to be done on it. It's sounding awesome. I'm super excited because I feel like it takes everything that I love about what we've put out, and it just hones in on it even more. It's more concise, it's more curated based upon what I've learned, like from a engineering perspective, from a production perspective, from just a general music perspective. I've been able to take what I believe Bad Lives is and make it a better product.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about.
Always when I feel like it's easy to get like excited, especially when we can show like growth and like show like, oh, it's grown, like, you know what I mean? I've learned so much and I get to put it on something new, and people will finally like listen to like that we're at, even though you're already on like the next album.
Yeah,
already,
I'm like, my mind is in the release for 2025. That's where my mind's at right now.
Which is, and then who knows like how much more you're gonna learn by then.
Yeah,
you know?
who knows what's gonna change.
You know? Exactly. It's one thing. I always look at like bands who like do drastic changes, stuff like, yeah, it's like I totally get that, because you like experience so much like within just like a year even, that you're like, okay, I want to add that to whatever I'm doing.
And that's what's really hard is I'm like, man, I love these songs, but I also hate them because I'm so from a writing perspective, from just a worldview perspective, I'm in a different place than when I wrote those songs. So I'm like, I'm releasing this as who I am now, but it's actually who I was when I wrote these songs.
When you wrote the songs, yeah. So you gotta, which even, I mean, at a year, that's not even entirely bad, because like I always look at like the last like 2 singles that my band put out before we broke up were like 2 years old, and that was painful. Like, I'm like, man, like we're not even writing that shit anymore. Like the stuff we were writing, I'm like, that's what I'm like, I want to put that out. And then like it broke up before we even put like the actual stuff we were working on currently. And I'm like, damn, I'm working on a new project now. It's like, yeah, we got to work on that. Like I got to just like write stuff and put it out, which is like the new project that I'm working on is going to be I'm just like writing stuff that I want to write and put out. I'm like, that's simple. Like,
as you should.
I have no like goal with it in mind. I was like, I just want to write some cool shit that I actually enjoy and not worry about putting it out when I feel that, you know what I mean? Not like in a year or two, because like overthinking it like is one that I think that would get me. That's when I feel
like it gets real though, because like I feel like specifically from my experience, whenever I stopped caring is when it started clicking. Like I talked to Victor about this, and I was like, you know, with album 2, I'm like, I feel like I'm finally reaching a point of peace within myself where I can say, okay, I just want to release this because I love the music. I don't care if it does whatever. I'll be happy to just, you know, put something out and maybe people listen to it. And I feel like once I finally reached that point of like peace within myself, things started happening. And I was like, the growth has been ridiculous to the point where I can't even, if you would have told me where I'd be 6 months ago, I would have like literally laughed out loud. But I feel like there's the amount of honesty and the amount of truth that's coming from or hopefully is coming from what we're doing is having an effect on that, or is the cause of that.
I definitely believe so. And that point of not caring is really just when you allow yourself to be the most authentic version of it that you can be, and that translates beautifully into music. It always does. And then like that's the stuff that when I listen to, I'm like, this feels like it came from an actual like place. It's not someone trying to write something specifically to be
to capture a market or whatever, a time.
And I enjoy that music. I enjoyed I take that back, because I like love pop music all the time. Like, so everything has its place, but those moments are really special, and like feel like though people enjoy that like as a whole, like things where this feels like it came from a real place. And I'm glad that that's like kind of where you've found yourself writing like this new album. So I'm super excited to listen to it. Are you guys playing any of it like at
we're playing 2 songs from it at Chill Sounds. I mean, we've been playing 2 of these songs for a minute, but as much as I enjoy them, there's so much other great stuff on that album. So I'm super excited to finally kind of be allowed to share that. Yeah.
Dope, man. Well, I know we're excited for that. We're excited to see you guys at Chill Sounds and Breakdowns October 15th. Get your tickets. Mark that little tab that says Bad Lives because they are awesome. And honestly, like, I think it's incredible that literally it's been less than a year, and the trajectory you guys have like taken is amazing and astounding. And like I know like there's just greater things gonna happen for you guys.
I hope so.
And I also appreciate you for stopping by.
Yeah,
of
course.
I really, really do appreciate that. I know, like I said, we've been trying to like get this podcast up for a while, but I'm sure we'll have you like back on maybe closer to the album. We'll talk about that.
Definitely.
Maybe have a deep dive into that. But yeah, thank you for stopping by. Thank you guys for listening today, and we will see you guys next time.